So guys, as usual, I'm called Engineer Janvier. So today we are going to talk about the architectures of Internet of Things. The current session mainly we focus on 4 layers of IoT architecture, 3 layers IoT architecture, and the 5 layers IoT architecture. The IoT architecture can differ from one solution into another, depends on where the application has been deployed and its functionality. So, but the basic or the general IoT architecture contains the basic process, or I can say it contains mainly 4 main components or layers. The first layer is called sensor layer. The sensor layer is the first layer of a general IoT architecture that combines sensors, actuators, and the device itself. So the main role of this component is to collect the data from environment via sensors and perform the actions on environment through actuators. Then the next point is the sensor layer includes its network. It can push data collected from the sensor layer to the next layer, which is the gateway for transmission purpose. So here the network layer, or sometimes we call it the internet gateway or gateway and network layer. Its mainly purpose is to act as the transport medium. Actually, it forward the data from the sensing layer to the data processing layer. The data processing layer is the third layer of the IoT architecture that does data processing, data analytics. It does provide data security, data privacy, and so on. And it provides data accessibility by the end users. Then lastly, we have an application layer, which is the last layer or last stage of an IoT architecture that define different areas where the IoT can be applied, and it provides the specific services to end users. So, by going through each and every one, as I have mentioned, we have the sensing layer as the bottom layer or the first layer that is made up of smart objects integrated with sensors and actuators and a computing device, where the sensors are there for collecting the data from the environment, and actuators are there for performing any activities or physical activities on the environment. So the next layer, as I mentioned again, it is a network layer or a gateway, and its network, where its role is to capture the data from multiple devices, not from a single sensor, and then it does data aggregation, and it can convert from one data format into another, or even it can provide the pre-processing of data from the sensing layer, and thereafter it pushes data from the device or from sensors to the next layer, which is the data processing layer. Here, the data processing layer is there for performing the data analytics, data security, data storage, and they provide user accessibility. Then lastly, we have the application layer. As I said, it describes different applications in which the Internet of Things can be applied. Among these applications, we have like smart home, we have smart city, we have smart health, we have smart transport, smart agriculture, smart factory, smart healthcare, and so on. Then it provides the services to end users.
Sorry, teacher. Sorry, teacher.
Yes, go ahead.
We have someone interrupted 2 minutes ago in our campus the problem of network. Could you please come previous
Where do you want me to start
session?
again? At which page? Which slide?
There.
So I was saying that there is no single agreed IoT architecture that is agreed on by all of the IoT contributors or IoT researchers, but the IoT system accepts different IoT architectures, and these architectures can vary from one solution into another, and it can depend on the functionality and the implementation of the given solution. Then, among these different IoT architectures adopted by different researchers, so we have so-called basic process flow based on which the IoT is built on. So, first we have called the basic or the general IoT architecture. This basic or general IoT architecture comprises 4 layers, where the first layer it is called a sensing layer. The role of sensing layer is to collect the data from environment via sensors, and it perform physical activities or actions via the actuators, and at the end it can push data collected to the next layer, which is the network layer, or some guys they call it like the gateway or network layer. So this layer, its role is to take the data from devices, not from one sensor, and to forward those data to the next layer, which is a processing layer, where the processing layer it does data processing, data analytics, it provides data storage, and it provides data accessibility by the end users. Then lastly, we have application layer, which is the last layer of the general IoT architecture that defines different applications where the IoT can be applied, and they provide the specific services to end users. So I was saying that a sensor layer is the bottom layer, first layer of the general IoT architecture, where it combines sensors, actuators, and a computing device for collecting data from the environment by using the sensors, and they perform physical activity on environment via actuators. Next layer is a network layer or gateway and the networks, where it aggregates or collects data from multiple devices. Then it can do data compression, it can do data format conversion, and at the end it can forward the data from the sensing layer to the next layer, which is data processing layer. Here the data processing layer, it does data analytics, it provides data security and privacy, and it provides data storage, and lastly, it provides data accessibility by the end users. Lastly, we have the application layer, which defines different applications where the IoT can be applied. And some of these applications include smart home, smart city, smart health, smart transport, smart agriculture, smart healthcare, and so on, smart energy. And lastly, this layer it provides the services to end users. So we have so-called now 3-layer and the 5 layers IoT architecture apart from general IoT architecture. So the 3-layer architecture contains only 3 layers: perception layer, network layer, and application layer, whereas the 5 layers architectures contains perception layer, transport layer, processing layer, application layer, and the business layer. Ukeneye amavuta urayafite hari ikintu ukeneye mbere ko nkomeza okay. Oya buretse ubu ngiye gusubizaho kamera wicecekana nakubwiye gusubizaho microphone. Okay, the 3-layer architecture contains 3 layers as I mentioned. First layer it is called the perception layer. The perception layer combines sensors, actuators, and their network. So the perception layer detects any change into the environment through the sensors connectivity. Then it push the data collected to the next layer, which is a network layer. Here the network layer it includes the smart gateway. Those are the gateway that have the internet connectivity, where the network layer can allow the network between different smart objects or smart devices, or it can even provide or act as the transport medium where it forward the data from perception layer to the application layer, where the application layer is the last layer of the 3 layers architecture, and then it is hosted in the cloud, and its role is to provide the application services to end users. So you can read everything here. The perception layer is the physical layer which has sensors for sensing and gathering information about the environment. Network layer is responsible for connecting to the other smart things, network devices, and servers. The features are also used for transmitting and processing of data. Then lastly, the application layer is responsible for delivering application-specific services to end users. Do you have any question about the 3 layers architecture, or it is clear? Is it clear, guys? I want to listen from you. Okay. If there is no feedback, I assume that everything is clear now. So now let's talk about the 5 layers IoT architecture. This 5 layers IoT architecture, it combines only 5 layers. First one is perception layer, then next one is transport layer, we have processing layer, application layer, and businesses layer. So actually, the transport layer and the perception layer and the application layer, it does the same thing as the perception layer and application layer of the 3 layers architecture. Only difference between the 2 layers is here we have added the other layers like business layer and transport layer. Here the transport layer is responsible for transmitting the data from sensors from perception layer to the processing layer, where the processing layer is used as a middle layer. It is hosted in the cloud, and it is responsible for storing, analyzing, processing the data it receives from the transport layer, or it can even push the data from the next layer down to the perception layer. Then lastly, we have the business layer, which is the layer designed to manage the whole IoT ecosystem, include the applications, privacy, and the business model. The transport layer transfers the data from perception layer to the processing layer and vice versa through the network, such as the wireless, 3G LAN, Bluetooth, RFID, and NFC. Later, we're gonna define what is the RFID, what is NFC, what is LAN and Bluetooth, and so on. The processing layer is a middle layer. It stores, analyzes, and it processes the large amount of the data from the cloud. And I think everything here has been explained. There's no need to repeat it again. Guys, this is the end of the first session. Do you have any question about this session? Do you have any question, guys? Do you have any question?
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes, please.
Five layer architecture. Hello.
Yes, please.
On 5 layer architecture,
Yes.
you show us the 3 layers. How it is called the 5 layer, but you show us only 3 layers.
Are you sure? Can't you see the 5 layers?
Yes. You explained the only 3.
Okay, I explained the only 3 layers because the perception layer, let me show you. Here, if you try to make a comparison between the 3 layers and the 5 layers, we have perception layer, we have application layer in both, we have perception layer in both. So the role of perception layer in both layers is the same, and the role of application layer in both layers is the in both architectures is the same. Only after explaining what is a 3 layers architecture, for the 5 layers, I explained only transport layer, processing layer, and the business layer, because the role of the perception layer and an application layer is the same what we explained in 3 layers architecture. Am I answering your question?
Sorry, teacher.
Yes, please.
What is the difference between 3 layer and 5 layer of architecture?
So, I was saying the IoT architecture defines the data process how the data captured will be transmitted from one component into another, how the command provided by the end users will be transmitted up to the end component. So these architectures, we have many IoT architectures, as I said, and there is no single consensus, there is no agreement on which IoT architectures that we have to adopt, but all of them, they are accepted. So you can refer to any one. It depends on your application and its functionality. So here I say the 3 layers contains only the 3 layers. Only first layer, it is for collecting data from environment via sensors and perform activity on sensors. Second layer is the transport medium and the data processing for pushing the data from perception layer to application layer. In the application layer, it is there for providing the application services to end users. Then, for the 5 layers architecture, it includes the business layer, which also control or monitors the whole IoT ecosystem, include the user privacy and even if the IoT profit. And then it adds processing layer for performing data analytics, for providing the data storage. Then we have again the transport layer for forward the data from perception layer to the processing layer. All of them are the layers of the IoT architectures that have been came up with, by different researchers. Am I answering your question?
Somehow.
So if you still have a question on this, please tell me. I'm here to give you the correct answer.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other question, please?
Yes.
Go ahead.
My question is this. For these layers 5 and 3 layers architecture, 3 contains 3 layers, but only 3 layers we have application layers and 5 layers we have application layers. What is the difference between 2 layers, these layers, application layers?
I mentioned the role of application layer and the transport layer in both architectures are the same. There is no difference. So if there is no question on this, I'm going to end up this session, then we start the other session, but you are going to have the 15 minutes for a break and then we come back.